Sweet, welcome back.
Yeah, thanks, Lafon. It was great listening to myself and you last week. I listened to that. That was good. I was really aware that I didn't say too much at all.
No, neither did I. No, kind of like
sort of like
sort
that.
of like
didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, all I was gonna say all killer, no filler, but yes, no filler words.
No.
Lots of good memories, lots of exploration of the origins of situations and all that sort of stuff. Lots of feedback from people, so thank you for the feedback through the week. That's been really lovely to hear from people.
That was great. Great to hear from Gareth. Gareth Jones was a student at Taradale Primary School, took on juggling and still walking, unicycling, performing. And Joseph, I was rehearsing with Joseph this week, and he said he teared up at the first chord when we started to sing together. Oh my God, family harmonies, that's so beautiful.
There is something beautiful about it, isn't there?
Yeah. Joseph just kept nagging me. When's the next one? When are you doing the next one?
It's right now, Joseph. It's right now. We might see him driving up the driveway out there.
That's right. It's holidays, school holidays.
Yeah, it's true. That's true. He's
a working school teacher.
He is. He's a busy
man.
Yeah.
Music man, that's why we're here.
We are, yeah. We're exploring the family business of music and performing. We explored your origins through the becoming a performer and the origins of performing in your family, where that led to and how that influenced the performer you became. And then towards myself being your offspring, being influenced by that also. And we wound up with the family of yourself, your lovely partner Christine, and your oldest son Lifon, who's me, and I think probably a very young Hannah.
2 years old.
2 years old Hannah at this stage,
years,
living in Mittagong,
New South Wales.
which is
100 k's south of Sydney.
Okay, right.
Yeah. That was
not on the coast or anything like that.
No,
but it's
in the Highlands. It's called the Southern Highlands. So it was really cold.
Yeah, true.
It's up on the plateau, Mittagong. The reason we are in Mittagong is a long story, but that's why we're here to tell all the stories.
We've got 40 minutes, an hour or so yet.
I got a job as a community education officer.
Okay.
With a program called Inner City to Country Project, which was funded. We're talking 1979.
Right.
When we first came back to Australia. We came to Australia from living in France because my dad had cancer. I got a phone call, which is very difficult to do in France. So I got a call by the mayor to come to the mairie. There was a phone call for me. They found me and I went. And my mum said, your dad's got lung cancer. He's having surgery and he's got 6 weeks to live. If you want to see him, you better come and see him. Oh, okay. We were quite poor subsistence, sort of farming, busking for money, picking grapes. So Mum said, I'll pay for you. So you were 1 year old.
Yep.
And we had to get from France to Australia.
Whereabouts in France?
South of France, called Saint-André.
Okay.
Is where we lived then. So we lived in a community of people that we lived with in Zambia.
Right, okay.
Back to when Christine and I first met and got together in Zambia with Bob and Claire and Noon at a farm called Wingabupe in Lusaka, which means wedding gift. Wingabupe is wedding gift. And that was just wonderful, ecstatic time of my life. I was 21, 23, 24 in the middle of Africa, and Christine and I got together. And the community that we were part of wanted to move from Zambia because war was developing with Southern Rhodesia. So Ian Smith was the Prime Minister dictator of Southern Rhodesia, and he refused black independence in what is now Zimbabwe.
Right.
Lots of freedom fighters, probably now called terrorists, who came into Zambia. There were a lot more guns in Zambia. So at that time, our neighbour was shot dead by people with guns, and people would get held up on roads. It became a really unfriendly place to be over those 4 or 5 years that I was there.
Yeah, gradually.
So everyone thought, we need to get out of here, let's go. And people did the research and found that in the foothills of the Pyrenees in France, there were deserted villages where the young people had left, and the old people were maybe still there, but there were ruins, there were houses that were empty. Someone did the research before the internet. And en masse, we moved to the south of France.
Wow, okay.
near Limoux, near Carcassonne, that area. Just foothills of the Pyrenees.
Did anyone speak French before you got there?
I did French up to Form 5.
Oh, très bien.
Oui. Yeah. Christine was a little bit better than I was.
Oh, growing up in
But
England.
the problem there was that because we were in mainly an English-speaking community of people, we tended to speak English among ourselves. It was lazy, you know. But people were very welcoming, mainly because there were influx of young, energetic people who started to farm.
Right, yeah.
So part of that group were farmers. It was all very subsistence. It was back to the land.
Yep.
Subsistence farming.
Okay.
And picking grapes. So we were there. I got a phone call.
Yep.
Dad's going to die 6 weeks. You better come see him. So we got ourselves to London.
Yep.
We're getting the bonbon cake. We'll get
to
the bonbon cake.
This is how it happened. Yeah. Getting to Midigon.
Yeah, getting to Midigon. That's right. We're getting to Midigon via Saint Andre, via London.
London, yeah.
We got to London and we went to buy our tickets, and they said, "Oh, Christine would need a return ticket because we weren't married."
Right.
We said, "We haven't got enough money. We just got enough money for our fares. You were one, so you didn't have to pay for you."
Yeah.
And we didn't have enough money for a return ticket. And they said, "Well, sorry, she's English. She needs a return ticket. She can't come to Australia with her."
Yeah.
Oh, but they said if you're married, she wouldn't need a return ticket.
You're right.
Wow. So we said, "Oh, let's get married."
Let's get married.
Yeah, let's get married.
Yeah.
And we found that was quite easily done.
Mm-hmm.
We booked into the Kensington Registry Office, which is a very posh area. I think that's where Princess Margaret was married, and probably David Bowie was. Kensington was a very groovy part of London.
Okay.
We got booked into the Kensington Registry Office to get married. It was very small. There were about 8 friends came.
Yep.
And I remember I had you in my arms, and the celebrant, the master of ceremonies bloke, the clerk, said, "Oh, would you like to get somebody else to hold the baby?" And I said, "No, I'll hold the baby, thanks, while I get married."
Mm-hmm.
And so I held you in my arms while we got married.
Right, yeah.
And it was great. It was a really good party. We had friends around the corner from New Zealand, so we went back there, and they made a hash wedding cake.
Oh dear.
Yeah, and we all just fell asleep on the floor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me included.
You included.
Yeah.
And then we got on a plane. So the cheapest flight we could get from London to Melbourne was on Aeroflot, Russian airline.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you remember this story at all? The story
No.
of your journey from London to Melbourne?
No.
Aeroflot was the cheapest flight.
Okay.
So it had to go via Moscow to Bangkok
Right.
to Melbourne. That was the route. We flew from London to Moscow, and the food on the plane was black bread and boiled eggs.
Oy.
It was pretty, and we said, "We've got this 1-year-old baby. Got anything else?"
Get a banana.
No bananas, no.
Yeah.
I think we ate boiled eggs and bread. You were okay with that.
Right.
But it was heavily snowing in Moscow,
Okay.
and they couldn't land at the international airport. So they had to land at a military airport, maybe 20, 30 k's outside Moscow.
Okay.
And then they had to put us on a bus. Wow, that was the most scariest time. Like, there were guns everywhere.
Yeah.
And they put us on the bus to drive us from the military airport to another airport where they could then fly us to Bangkok, get the commercial flight.
Right.
And we weren't allowed off the bus, and they took all our passports as we got on the bus, everyone's passport taken. And we're driving through the outskirts of Moscow through these tall grey apartment blocks. It was just horrifically grim, I guess is the word, and the military looking very serious, like you didn't make a joke. People were on the bus. We were on the bus for several hours, and people needed a wee. And they couldn't get off the bus. So people were just weeing up the back of the bus.
Far out.
It was really, really scary. We didn't know it. And they drove us around and round and round. And finally, they took us to another airport where a big commercial airline was, and that was the flight to Bangkok.
Okay.
And then we flew to Bangkok.
And a different kind of vibe in Bangkok, I imagine. Although still guns.
No, not then. No, that was just paradise. Bangkok was just wonderful.
Yeah,
never been to Thailand before.
Yeah, true.
It was fantastic. There was only one worrying moment where we went to a temple.
Yes.
We just visiting temples. We had about 3 or 4 days stopover. It was beautiful.
Okay.
And and one of the monks came out. One of the Buddhist monks from Thailand came out and said, "Oh, baby, you were so beautiful. I mean, you still are.
Oh, yeah.
You were extra cute then. You know, you had masses of blonde curls.
Right.
And baby, can I?" So we hold the baby, and then he took the baby back out through the sort of back of the temple, the monastery, whatever. And after about 5 minutes, we looked at each other and go, "Oh, do they have like baby slaves and stuff? Do they capture babies?"
Is that the entry price we just paid? What's the?
That's right.
Getting the baby.
Give up your children. But you came back, it was okay.
Okay, right, yeah.
Yeah, and then we got to Melbourne, and it was it's pretty horrible. My dad was not in a good way.
Yeah.
And we were pretty feral.
Yeah.
We were, hippies would come from living in the foothills of the Pyrenees.
Yep.
We didn't worry too much about nappies and stuff like that. Yeah, it was.
Yep.
Yeah, we weren't very conscious or considerate, really.
You weren't very 1970s suburban Melbourne.
No.
Okay, yeah.
And my dad had 6 weeks to live.
Yes, right.
The different thing was that he lived for 9 years.
He did go on to live for 9 years. I do remember that bit.
Yeah. He was a fighter. He was a boxer.
Yes, true.
As a teenager, he was the junior champion of Queensland.
Right.
Boxing.
Yeah. Okay.
His dad was the manager of the Australian Olympic boxing team, so boxing was in their genes.
Okay.
And my dad used to fight in lots of circumstances.
Yes.
So he fought cancer.
Yes.
So he got head lung cancer. He had one lung out. The other one radiation.
Yep.
Then he got bowel cancer. He had his bowel out. Then he got bladder cancer. So he had 2 bags. He had a bladder bag and a bowel bag that my mum used to look after. And he lived for 9 years with all these different sorts of cancers.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. It was a fight. And we went for a drive to visit friends in Sydney.
Yep.
And they said, "There's a job going at Mittagong for someone that wants to work with youth, like called a community education officer. You can do music."
Yep.
Said, "Oh, you can make a dark room, you could fix bikes, you can do all these things." Kids would come from Sydney to have a country experience.
A troubled kids, or was it a rich kids experience?
Pretty troubled kids,
Okay,
kids, yeah. So it was designed for those. So it wasn't kids coming from Manly and
for a holiday.
Ride, and no, it was troubled kids.
Okay. Hey, Mum.
Hi there. I need the keys to the car.
Certainly, you'll need those. Yeah.
Yes, I will. Come on.
Okay. It's all right. I paused that.
Oh.
You can't pause that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Nice.
Okay.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye bye.
Troubled kids.
Trouble kids.
Yeah, right.
Mittagong. Yeah.
And so moved because you were living in the family home in Melbourne at that point, and you decided to everyone move up to Mittagong from Melbourne.
Yeah, it wasn't a very comfortable time in the family home. It was really stressful.
Yeah.
So we crowded out the house.
Yep.
And so let's go and visit friends in Sydney. So we went for a drive to Sydney just to visit friends. Margie was there. Visiting Margie.
Yes.
And she had a friend that was involved with a group called Pippi Storm Children's Circus.
Okay.
So they said there's a job going in Pippi Storm Children's Circus. So I got a job, and then we found a flat in Coogee near the beach.
Okay.
And I got a job in Pippi Storm Children's Circus, which is a wonderful group of people.
Mm-hmm.
And we used to travel out to the western suburbs of Sydney every weekend.
Yep.
It was called the Parks Program. And we would string up, it's where I learned to do a truckies hitch.
Oh, right, yeah.
With ropes. So we'd string up ropes really tight to make tight ropes.
Mm-hmm.
And we would string them up higher for people to hold on to when they're walking on stilts.
Right.
I learned to walk on stilts doing that.
Mm-hmm.
I learned to juggle.
Yep.
I learned I met Bob Doyle, my dear friend.
Right, yep.
Yeah.
In that group also.
In that group, he was in that group. And Julie McCrossan, there's some wonderful people in that group. There were eight of us in the Parks Program. And while in that program, they said that there's a job come up at Mittagong.
Right.
And by that time, Christine was pregnant with Hannah.
Yes, I see, yes.
Yeah, Christine got pregnant. We had a really good time in Bangkok.
Okay, yep.
And Christine was pregnant from there. So Hannah was baking in the oven.
Yep.
And so we said, okay, that might be good. We've got a job. It's a 2-year contract. There was a funding for 2 years at Mittagong.
Right.
So we moved to half of this big old house called Hassel Cottage.
Hassel Cottage.
Hassall. Not the other sort of Hassel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, named after Johnny Hassel, who was a governor or something.
Okay, right.
And that was an old boys' home. So it was Renwick was a boys' home for truants and delinquents.
Mm-hmm.
And they built a new building around the corner, which was modern, horrible, ugly 60s brick dormitories, and like a, not really like Malmesbury Youth Training Centre, but a little bit like it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Less security.
Less security, yeah.
But definitely that's the purpose of it.
Yeah, there was education. And we were in the old buildings, so there were
Yes.
2 buildings next to each other, Hassel Cottage and Jeffers Cottage.
I remember the big white walls and the grounds, and I remember a room for some reason that it was spoken of that it never had a door, and a door had to be knocked into this room or something like that. I remember one room, the door was just knocked out bricks so you could get into it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how it had got like that, but
Yeah, that was, it's a good story.
oh yeah,
Yeah, we had one room called the Wisteria Room. So the
Okay.
room we lived in was called the Wisteria Room
hmm
because it was adorned with this wisteria outside. In the other half of, the other 3/4 of the house were Bill and Eve,
Yes.
Jenny and Melanie. So I was job sharing with Eve.
Okay.
She would do all the craft stuff, and I do the fixing bikes and go for bushwalks and music in the dark room. Do that.
Right. Okay.
And so then the plants, Bill and Eve, moved out. So we thought, great, let's move into the other half of the house. But we liked the wisteria room. So I decided to knock a hole in the wall between their half of the house and the wisteria room. So I just took out all the bricks and banged it up.
Oh,
But
there you go.
they weren't very happy with it.
No, you're making adjustments.
It was
to
a
the
heritage
structure.
building, and I was having holes in the wall to crawl through.
Right.
So that we had access to their kitchen and toilet and stuff like that.
Right. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. And you have some memories of Hassel Cottage?
I do remember there being lots of kids around. I do remember the kitchen, a few times doing things in the kitchen. I remember going for walks. I remember the flying fox.
Yes.
I do remember the big flying fox that the kids used to go on that I fell off as an infant and broke my leg. I do remember the broken leg incident. I do remember going for walks with the kindergarten, like down to a creek, and there was like muddy, getting all muddy in the creeks and such.
Yeah.
And I think some part of me remembers the music and the sort of start of the Bong Bong Hat Band and this idea of sort of playing music for other people in that capacity. But I do remember the kids, lots of running around and big kids and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, right.
Noisy
Big
kids.
teenagers. They were mainly, big teenagers.
Yes.
And they were very protective of you, of course.
Yes.
You know, a 3-year-old. You were
Yeah.
3. Hannah was born in the wisteria room, so Hannah was
Right.
born at home.
Yes, okay.
So all our 3 kids were born at home.
Yeah.
You were born in London, and Hannah was born in Mittagong.
Yes.
And you were 3. Yeah, that was one of those more horrific moments in my life where I built flying fox up a really, really tall poplar trees and had a rope hanging on the bottom and a swing seat. No safety seat, it's just a swing seat. And I would take the rope and pull people up to the top, and then the flying fox would come down and they'd be sitting on the swing seat.
Yeah.
So this day, I think there'd been a birthday party, and you were sitting on the seat, and I ran and pulled you up to the top. I can't even work out those numbers. When I look out at the trees out in the window, I think that's 2, 4, 6, like it's 15 meters. It's a long way up, and you fell off the swing at the top, far out. I just watched you falling from that height.
Yeah.
You know? And then the blessed thing about that was that we went straight to Mittagong Hospital.
Yep.
And there happened to be an orthopedic surgeon there working, doing some surgery that day. So we had the x-rays, they found you break in your leg. And he, as an orthopedic surgeon, was able to fix it beautifully.
Right, okay.
Yeah, so normally maybe he hadn't been there, they would have to, some GP or some lower level orthopedic, not an orthopedic surgeon. So it was great that he was there, and your leg's fine?
Yep, it's fine.
Right. That's cool.
Yep. Still hopping along today.
Great, that's good.
Yeah.
While there, you went to kinder, you were 4 years old.
Yep.
Go to kinder in Mittagong. Hannah was 2.
Right, yep.
Christine was working at the ECS. She was doing computer programming at an engineering company. She found a job.
Okay.
And I was at home with the kids.
Yep.
Apropos of our agreement. So our agreement when we got together, I'll have the kids. So basically that was how our life panned out. I stayed at home most of the time with the kids.
Yeah.
Christine went to work. And B was the teacher at Mittagong Preschool. And Hannah, of course, wanted to stay when we went there, drop you off. There's all these kids running around. There's swings, there's slides, there's heaps of fun.
Yep.
Hannah wanted to stay as a 2-year-old, and B said, yeah, she can stay, but you've got to stay with her. You can't just leave her here. So I used to prefer to hang around kinder for 3 or 4 hours in the morning, than go home and be at home with a 2-year-old by myself. And while there, I would have fun. I'd play games. I'd hide, and everyone would find me. The whole kinder would be chasing me, and I'd sit inside and I'd do stories and I'd sing songs. And then B suggested maybe I could do a show.
Yeah, put together a little organised show.
Yeah.
Okay.
And at the time, we were living with Prue and Peter.
Yes.
They were visiting us at Hassel Cottage.
Mm-hmm.
And I came home and suggested, well, look, they wanted a little show. Rather than me just going to it, why don't we all, the 4 of us, put on a little show? Because we used to play music together at home. That's what we did.
Yeah.
Bit of juggling. So Christine and I and Prue and Peter and you and probably Hannah came along and we did a show, singing songs, doing action songs, stuff like pretty basic. And they thought that was great. They loved it. And so she suggested we get some other kinders in, maybe Bowral, nearby kinder, maybe Mossvale nearby. We'll get other kinders to come and we can do a show for them.
Mm.
That was the beginning, really. And then when they were inviting other kinders in, they said, well, what do you call it? We need to tell them what the name of your group is.
Yes. Mm.
So we don't have a name. So I remember that night sitting at home before the show the next morning. We need a name. Well, we live on Bong Bong Road. Yeah, that's Bong Bong's got a good ring to it. And we wear hats and we play music. We're called the Bong Bong Hat Band.
Right.
Yeah. That's there. That's still there.
It's still there. It's still written on the letterhead and the backdrop.
The backdrop still there.
The eventual album that was
My
released.
ABN.
Your ABN.
Registered as the Bong Bong Hat Band.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's my.
Yeah, there you go. And so then from began to tour into other kindergartens and such from around Mittagong, Bowral sort of area.
Yeah, that's right. We did a short tour of the south coast down to Wollongong. That was the nearest coast. So Wollongong, Dapto. We did that with Prue and Peter, and you and Hannah, and Luke was obviously born then.
Mm-hmm.
So we did that little tour, doing maybe 5 or 6 kinder shows in a week, and that was good fun.
Yep.
And then we came back, Mittagong, and I think then Prue and Peter were returning to Melbourne, and B suggested there was a big conference coming up, which was called the Country Preschools Association of New South Wales.
Okay.
Were having a conference in Port Macquarie, up the coast, north of Sydney. She said, I've got the contact with the organiser. You would be perfect. You could go there, do a little show, and you'll get bookings all over New South Wales.
Right, yeah.
Great, okay. So we did that. We drove up in our van. We had the camper van then, and we went to Port Macquarie and we did a lunchtime show outside. Christine and I, and you and Hannah playing percussion, singing songs, doing some action things with our hands, singing Waltzing Matilda, singing this and that.
Yep.
And people thought that was fantastic. I guess I'm trying to work out why it was so good. Because you were 2 really cute. That was a big factor. You and Hannah were playing percussion and you were focused. You weren't off playing the sandpit. You were actually joining in, playing the music.
Sure, yeah.
And I guess Christine and I sounded all right. We probably weren't too polished. We were, but people loved it. And we dressed up. We were bright and colourful. And we had high energy.
Yep.
We did that at lunchtime. And then at the end of lunchtime, we stood there, and Christine had a diary for next term, and I had a map. And people would come and say, they'd line there. There's this. I remember this queue of about 15 people lined up.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm in Wauchope. When can you come to Wauchope? Okay, well, hang on, I'll look up. Well, where's Wauchope? Oh, up there. No, yeah. Oh, we could go there on maybe Wednesday, the 14th of June. Okay. Now I'm from Moree. When can you come to Moree? Oh, Moree. Where's that? So we did that for about half an hour.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
And we got maybe 3 or 4 weeks of work.
Wow. Yeah.
And doing shows every day for 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah.
What we didn't realise, our geography was so bad that we had to traverse the Great Dividing Range about 3 or 4 times. So we go to the coast,
right?
Then we go into Moree, we go back to the coast, Port Macquarie, and then we go into Coonamble, and then we go back to the coast, and we'll go.
It looked very close on a map, but it is the largest mountain range in Australia. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So, and the van wasn't all that. It was an old Bedford beautiful camper van. Did you have any memories of sleeping in the bunks up
Yeah,
the top?
the bunks at the top. Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the pop-up roof and 2 bunks up the top. And
Yeah.
Christine and I had the main bed in the middle. It had a fridge,
Yeah,
a gas stove.
true.
It was luxury.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah.
And then when Grace came along, we made a little mattress in the front seat, so the driver's seat. That was Grace's bed. She slept in the front.
True. Yeah.
But that was really beginning that tour. Standing there at Port Macquarie, filling in the diary.
Yep.
And filling in 3 or 4 weeks of shows, and it was great.
Yeah, and that was just the two of you and us by that stage.
Yeah, that was just the four of us.
Yeah, right.
And then I guess the progression of the story is that we went back to Hassel Cottage for a short while, and probably my sequencing might be a little bit out, but Prue and Vita came back for a visit, and Johnny, Prue's brother, came.
Mm-hmm.
Johnny Maiden,
the famous, fabulous,
the
John
famous
Maiden.
Maroomba man, Johnny Maiden, came and visited. And he came along one time. Got some photos of that, of John joining in the Bong Bong Hat Band at the Kinder. We went back and did a return tour.
Yep.
And we were a bit disgruntled with our rental system at the 2 years of granted money had run out.
Okay.
So we were beholden to a group called the Birchgrove Society. It was based in Balmain in Birchgrove in Sydney.
Mm-hmm.
And they were a highly dodgy bunch of people. So we were only unhappy basically with our living conditions there. Mm-hmm. And Johnny said, well, I've just bought this 40-acre block of bush in Taradale, not far from Melbourne. He said, I bought it for, $12,000 in the Saturday Age.
Right.
He said, it'd be good to share it with some people. If you want to come and have a look, fancy, we could go thirds. Prue and Peter could buy a third, and we could come in a third, and we could live there. We thought, oh, okay, all right. So we drove down to Taradale, and we visited Johnny's block.
Mm-hmm.
And it was September. It was about now, and it was a similar climate to now, even though the climate has changed.
Mm-hmm.
It was really wet.
Right.
There was water running all over the paddock.
Yeah.
There were wildflowers everywhere.
Yeah.
It was paradise.
Yeah.
There were waterfalls.
Yeah.
It was just blissful. That clearing of Jarrah Valley. It's a big clearing in the middle of the bush that was a sheep paddock. So it was this beautiful grassland that was, and we saw that, we go, we can. The tricky thing was that we'd saved maybe $4,000, which is the cost of our 1/3.
Sure.
But it was also the cost of our airfare back to France. So meanwhile,
right,
when we left France, we left for 6 weeks because my dad was dying. So I left all my instruments. We left our clothes. We left our amazing sleeping bags and tent. We just left for a short while.
Yeah.
So we were still a functioning part of that community. And we kept getting letters and, saying, when you come back, like it's been, 3 or 4 months now, when you came back, what's going on? It's been then 6 months. So what, are you coming back at all? And then we thought, okay, well, we've got $4,000. And then we were just at that point of thinking, okay, maybe we'll go back to France. And then we saw the land at Taradale and we thought, no, I think I want to be here.
Yeah,
it's
right.
Just a beautiful bit of land.
Yep.
To take care of. Yeah. So that's why we're in Taradale still.
Yeah, that's true.
Right. And while at Taradale, living in a tent, building our house.
Yes.
You and we were still living in a tent. Big tent, you remember the big tent?
I remember the big tent, living in the big tent, yes.
And I would sit at the bottom of your beds and sing songs to you as you and Hannah went to sleep. So you were probably 5, Hannah was 3, maybe.
Right.
It was 4, because we just finished kinder. You hadn't started at Taradale Primary School yet, you were 4. And I'd sit at your beds and I'd just sing songs while you're going to sleep.
Yeah.
Which is the genesis of one of my more famous songs.
Right.
So there was a time when you might have been wetting the bed a bit.
True, yeah.
It was raining a lot, and so I think one time I was just sitting at the bottom of the bed and I just started strumming A minor, of course. And
on a rainy evening in a tent in the back hills between Taradale and Friarstown.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was just sitting at the bottom of the bed thinking, Laffon's been wetting the bed a few times.
I did like wetting the bed. It is fun wetting the bed when you know you're not the one who has to clean it up, If you're sure that someone else is going to clean it up and there's a dry side of the bed you can roll to. I'm making excuses now. I don't do it anymore. But yes,
I don't do it anymore. Those days are yet to come.
it's true.
So I made up this song. Don't do wee-wees in your bed. You get all soggy and you get a little wet. Don't do wee-wees in your bed. No, 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 no. You get all sticky and your mattress gets all wet. So don't do wee-wees in your bed. When you were just a little chappy, you know your dad could keep your mum and dad happy. You wore your plastic pants and pins and a nappy, and you didn't do wee-wees in your bed. So don't do wee-wees in your bed. No, 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 no. You get all soggy and you get a little wet. So don't do wee-wees in your bed. No, 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 no. You get all sticky and your mattress gets so wet. So, and now you're bigger and you even go to school. You think the nappies, they don't look so cool. But don't you forget the golden rule, and that is, don't do wee-wees in your bed. No, 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 no. You get all soggy and you get a little wet. Don't do wee-wees in your bed. No, 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 no. You get all sticky and your mattress gets so wet. No, so don't go drinking before you go to sleep. No, no, no. You fill your belly and then you feel it start to leak. Oh, you dream you're sitting right there on the pot until you feel it getting all wet and hot. Oh, no, 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 it's happened once again. No, no, no. I thought all my wet beds had come to an end, but no, I don't do wee-wees in your bed. No, 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 no. You get all soggy and you get a little wet. Don't do wee-wees in your bed. No, 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 no. You get all sticky and your mattress gets so wet. No. And now I'm older and one day I'll be incontinent. Oh no. I'll be there and I'll be looking for some help. Oh no, no. It'll be my turn for people to come inside and say, don't do wee-wees in your bed. Oh yeah, it's coming. Done, Dad? Oh, sorry. Oh yeah, I just forgot. I just forgot. Wee-wees in your bed. Isn't there a pan? No, can't have a pan or something. The mattress gets all wet. So don't do wee-wees in your bed. No, no, no. Don't do wee-wees in your bed. Please again, no. Don't do wee-wees in your bed.
What a classic.
It is a classic.
And can we say, before the age of Spotify and TikTok and all the things, that was a hit with anywhere you played it. And ended up being the opening track on the Bong Bong Hat Band album that was released. Koala Bongo, I think was the title of the album.
Yes.
You can find it on SoundCloud because I uploaded it from a copy somewhere. But it was a little cassette, released on cassette initially, recorded in Taradale.
Yeah.
Over at the Evans house.
Yeah, that's right.
And included, I reckon, 20 tracks, some instrumentals.
Yeah.
And it was really popular at kindergarten and such because it was very outside the spectrum of, here is a very polished song about clap your hands 3 times. And was very much more story-based and some beautiful imagery and amazing instruments as well. There was a zither on there.
Yeah, and Johnny Maiden played, and
yes.
Shane Plaza, my friend from Zambia and France, came and played.
He was there too, yeah. Hammer Dulcimer was in there, saxophones, banjos.
And Christine wrote a lot of songs. It was great. There's a song about Goldilocks. That's great.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, great song.
Song about Kylie Kangaroo.
Kylie Kangaroo, yeah, they were still great songs. And
absolutely.
Even I had an email like a month ago or so from someone say, oh, I found your email address or found you on Facebook or somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And we had your cassette when our kids are little.
Yep.
And now I've got grandkids. And I really want to share that. Would you have it on a CD?
Yeah.
Could I buy it on a CD? So that was great.
You still got copies?
Yeah.
There you go. Hit him up. TC Hender.
PC Hender.
PC Hender at
bigpond.com. Yeah. Yeah, if you want a copy of that.
Absolutely.
And I do get asked for it, and occasionally people request it. Because when I used to go and work as an artist in residence in primary schools mainly, and I did a lot of songwriting workshops and circuses and things in schools. And initially I just sit down with the class and say, oh, let's sing a song. And I would often sing Don't Do Wee Wees in Your Bed, because they go, whoa, you're singing a song about wee wees. Whoa, that's naughty.
Yeah.
I said, as a way of introducing them to songwriting, we can write a song about anything.
Anything,
Just make it up, like this one. See, I made this up about that.
Yeah.
And then I remember sometimes when we were working in Bendigo Easter Fair things, and kids come and say, can you sing that wee wee song again? You're the guy that sings that wee wee song.
Yeah, it became very popular. Yeah.
Yeah.
And hey, who knows, it might have a second wave. I'll put that clip on YouTube, see how we go.
Yeah, good. And that's great. What you can do with 2 chords, hey?
Hey, 2 chords and the truth, absolutely. The Bongo Happen album we were living in Taradale there, and then doing tours, travelling up the east coast of Australia during the winter months. So I'd go to school during the summer and spring, and then when it came June, July, we would jump in the van. A different van?
No, that van.
Same van?
Yeah, that van for a few years until it died.
Yeah. And travel up to...
Well, we expanded that initial tour of crisscrossing the Great Dividing Range. We got smarter each year. So we had the van and we would go up the coast. We'd go to Sydney. We had shows in Albury. Then we'd head the Hume Highway. We'd get to Sydney. We had lots of shows in Sydney around Harbord, Manly Way. And then we would head north, go to Port Macquarie. And what was really, really lovely was the hospitality of kindergarten teachers.
Right, yeah.
So often they would say, oh, come and stay, we've got a spare room.
Yep.
And I remember that when I said Port Macquarie, because there was a lovely woman, the kindergarten director there, who had a nice big house, a couple of teenage kids, and they had a spare wing on a big house, and we went and stayed in their house. So each place we went to, the other one up at Dorrigo, up around Nimbin, we went to, I don't know if you remember the people that had bees.
Ah, yes, I remember the bee place.
They kept bees, lovely couple of people.
Big house on stilts.
Yeah, big house on stilts, and they kept bees, and we all went out in the morning, and they opened the tub of honey to be able to fill a tub for us to take away.
Yeah.
And they forgot to turn it off.
Yeah.
So when we got home in the morning, the floor was thick with honey.
I remember that incident. I also remember a big power station around there somewhere, visiting something like that.
Yeah, that was in Cooma.
Yeah, nearby there?
No, near the Snowy Mountains.
Ah, right.
Yeah, I think that was there. We went to that massive great power station.
And I also remember the Talking Heads album, Road to Nowhere.
Yes.
During those drives around that area as well.
Yeah. Because that was what we were on.
Yeah, we were, Road to Nowhere, well, Road to Kindergartens. Another kindergarten specifically.
Yeah.
So a lot of kindergartens. Some primary schools are mainly...
No, kindergartens.
Also kindergartens.
And sometimes they would do a big event. They would hire a local hall, and Christine would do uku buku. Was a big thing. Christine made big mask in African style, and she had a character called uku buku. And she would do a dance, clapping up high, clapping down low, banging sticks, spinning around.
A rain dance, right?
It became a rain dance.
Yeah, okay,
At the time, it was just uku buku.
Okay, right.
Yeah, up and down.
Yeah.
And we get everybody up. I mean, people would, all the parents and everything.
Yeah.
It became a bit of a community show. Sometimes they hire the local hall. The kinder would hire a hall, and we'd have maybe 2 streams of kids, maybe 25, 40 kids, and then all their parents and other people would come, and it was a big deal.
Yeah, nice. Yeah.
I often thought, if I were better at marketing, we could have been the Wiggles, but would I have wanted to be?
I don't think you would want to be the Wiggles. It's been a consideration in my life so many times. It's like, what you actually enjoy doing, you want to enjoy doing, and once it's out of your control and into the hands of corporate money-making industry that has no investment in the joy of individuals, but more the joy of investment of banks and such, that you can see the joy come out of the eyes of the people doing those things once they hit a certain level. I understand absolutely. There's idea to get bigger and all that sort of stuff. But I think so many times on a grassroots level, you change people's lives through modeling the behavior of joy sourcing for them. Saying, this is how you can have fun in your community, and this is a way that we can do this, and we do this other places too. And we're not going to cookie cut this experience from another place and expect you to have the same good time that another